Manya Sadasana Swagadam.
Once again, we would like to warmly welcome all of you to the book launch of
From Kerala to Singapore,
Voices from the Singapore Malayalee Community. Let's put our hands together again.
Keralam, Keralam, Keli Kottuyarunna Keralam, Keli Kadambam, Pookum Keralam, Kera Keli Kadanamamin Keralam, 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 Keli Kottuyarunna Keralam, Keli Kadambam, Pookum Keralam, Kera Keli Kadanamamin Keralam, 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 Keralam. Poovani ponnum Singapore vili kettunarum kunnellin padathilude Maveli mannante maanikyateruvarum manasa pookalangaladum ആടും കേരളം 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 നീരദമാലകളാൽ പൂവിടും മാനം കണ്ട് നീളാനദി ഹൃദയം പാടും തോണിപ്പാട്ടണിയുന്ന കാറ്റത്ത് തുള്ളുമോളും കൈകൊട്ടി പാട്ടുകൾ തൻ മേളം മേളം കേരളം കേരളം കേളികൊട്ടുയരുന്ന കേരളം കേളി കദംബം പൂക്കും കേരളം കേര കേളി കദനമാമിൻ കേരളം 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 കേരളം.
Applause, please. Thank you, Aditi. You know, Sitara, Aditi's performance brings back a lot of memories, childhood memories for me. I grew up listening to her mother, Mrs. Varija Menon, singing on TV.
Nice. Thank you once again, Aditi.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special announcement and a request to all of you on behalf of the organizing committee. I'm sure all of you have your mobile phones, so if you could help us go to our page and like the page, we'll be really grateful. You want to tell them about the page?
So, the Facebook page is called Singapore Malayalee Story. So please like the page. We need as much support as we can get, and we would be ever grateful.
And if you're going to take pictures, which a lot of you would, please hashtag the event with the title as well. Thank you.
We will be beginning the rest of the event shortly.
Well, the next item will also make you feel at home then. We have Swapna Venugopal from Surya next to present a Mohiniyattam performance.
Let's give it up for her, please.
Thank you.
Vittari re sa re sa ga ga re da ga ta re tattari tattari gida sagadi mida purada ittari tittari gida sagadi mida purada re തുമ്പിക്കൈയാട്ടി ഒറ്റ കൊമ്പിളക്കി തുമ്പിക്കൈയാട്ടി ഒറ്റ കൊമ്പിളക്കി തുമ്പിക്കൈയാട്ടി ഒറ്റ കൊമ്പിളക്കി നടമാടും ആനന്ദ ഗണപതിയേ പരമാനന്ദ ഗണപതിയേ 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 ഇമ്പം ചീർക്കണേ ഇമ്പം ചീർക്കണേ തമ്പുരാനേ തുമ്പം പൊറുക്കണേ എൻ പുരാനേ ഇമ്പം ചേർക്കണേ തമ്പുരാനേ തുമ്പം പൊറുക്കണേ എൻ പുരാനേ നിൻ കളിയും പുഞ്ചിരിയും അൽപൊഴുകും കളിയും പുഞ്ചിരിയും അൽപൊഴുകും കൺകുളിരായി കളിയും പുഞ്ചിരിയും അൽപൊഴുകും കൺകുളിരായി കളിയും പുഞ്ചിരിയും അൽപൊഴുകും കൺകുളിരായി കളിയും പുഞ്ചിരിയും അൽപൊഴുകും കൺകുളിരായി ഗണപതി കളിയും പുഞ്ചിരിയും അൽപൊഴുതും കൺകുളിരായി ഗണപതി ഗണപതി അൽഗമിയലാതെ എങ്ങളുണരണേ അൽഗമിയലാതെ എങ്ങളുണരണേ മംഗളകരണേ മഞ്ജുളവദനെ അൽഗമിയലാതെ എങ്ങളുണരണേ മംഗളകരണേ മഞ്ജുളവദനെ തത്താരി തത്തരി കിടത തുമ്പിക്കൈയാണ്ടി കിടതകതി താരി തിത്തരി കിടതക ഒറ്റ കൊമ്പിളക്കി തുമ്പിക്കൈയാട്ടി ഒറ്റ കൊമ്പിളക്കി നടമാടും ആനന്ദ ഗണപതിയേ പരമാനന്ദ ഗണപതിയേ ഗണപതിയേ ഗണപതിയേ
Thank you, Swapna, for the most beautiful and mesmerizing performance.
And now, without further ado, let us welcome His Excellency Ambassador Kesavapani, President of Singapore Indian Association, to give his welcome address. Sir, please.
Our Guru of Gurus, Ambassador Tomiko, Mr. Vikram Nair, Member of Parliament for Sembawang GRC, Ambassador Gopinath Pillai, icon of the Malayali community, Mr. Sunny Verghese, CEO of Olam, and our special guest, Mr. Jayachandran, my friend and mentor, Mrs. Paramita Tripathi, Deputy High Commissioner of India, Mr. Viswa Sivan, former NMP, and now Mr. Inconvenient Questions, Mr. Jayakumar, Chairman of the Singapore Malayalee Association. And of course, the lady of the hour, Mrs. Anita Pillai. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Greetings and thank you for sparing this Saturday afternoon to be with us. The late and beloved President Nathan was a man of many passions. Passion for family, for friends, for food, for country, etc., etc., etc. Among this host of passions, the one important passion which he had for this occasion was a passion for heritage and history, also for the underclass. The landmark publication, The Indian Diaspora, which Mr. Nathan commissioned, stands out in the literature of this field. It should therefore not come as a surprise that Mr. Nathan was among the first to be interviewed for the book that we are launching today. The gist of that interview, which appears on page 69 of the book, is of contemporary relevance. When you read it, when you buy it and read it, you will appreciate what I mean. Blessed by such a splendid start, Dr. Pillai and her co-author, Dr. Puva Arumugam, went on to conduct 100 over interviews and undertake assiduous research. One interesting point about the cooperation was that one is in Australia and the other one is in Singapore. I don't know how they managed to coordinate and come out with a book. While the first author, the principal author, Mrs. Pillai, and her co-author were busy with their work, Mr. Binod Therat, an accomplished photographer, was clicking away and taking hundreds of photographs that appear in the book. I would like you all to join me in applauding Mr. Therat for giving us this visual treasure trove, which nicely complements the text. Vinod, could you stand up and let us be recognized? The task of the two authors was made easier by the support given by two of our agencies, the National Heritage Board and the Institute of Education at NTU. One person who also deserves our thanks is Mr. Sunny Verghese, Chief Executive Officer of Olam, a Fortune 500 company which we are all proud of. Mr. Verghese readily extended his support when I verbally briefed him on the importance of this project. The Singapore Indian Association is grateful to Dr. Pillai for spontaneously offering to donate 25% of the sale proceeds of the book to a program that we run called Helping People from Falling Through the Cracks. Details of the program can be found in the brochure which will be enclosed to the book. Neither of the authors would have been able to accomplish so much without the love and support of their families. We thank you in this particular instance, Mr. and Mrs. Pillai. And also Tejas, the son. And a special thanks to Master Tejas for his understanding and loss of quality time with his mom. It is SIA's first experience of working with SMA. May I say, Mr. Jayakumar, what a pleasure it has been, and we look forward to further collaboration. And lastly, I will hand over the mic to the MCs, who will then call upon the guest of Mr. Gopinath Pillai to toast the guest of honor. And nobody knows Ambassador Cole more than Ambassador Pillai. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to a very interesting moment that we all could look forward to. We've prepared a special sneak preview of the book that is going to be launched today.
So ladies and gentlemen, sit back and enjoy the video montage that we have put together. Now that was a great video, wasn't it? You can check out our Facebook page, that is, like I mentioned earlier, Singapore Malayalee Story, and please don't forget to like the page.
All right, in the midst of us, we have very important people this evening. We would like to highlight and also thank them on behalf of the organizing team. Firstly, Ambassador Gopinath Pillai, who has always been very supportive of the Singapore Malayalee Association and the Singapore Malayalee community at large. In 1937, his father, Mr. K.S. Pillai, started and ran Kerala Bandhu.
Kerala Bandhu had the honor of being the only Malayalam daily newspaper outside of Kerala. Isn't that remarkable? Now, we would like to invite Ambassador Gopinath Pillai to introduce Professor Tommy Ko, the guest of honor for this evening.
Professor Mrs. Ko, Ambassador Keshav Pani, Mrs. Pani, Jay Kumar, President of SMA, Vishwas Sadashivam, Vikram Nair and Mrs. Nair. I want to recognize Mr. M.K. Basi, probably the greatest Malayalam writer in Singapore. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm supposed to toast Tommy Ko and say some nice words, which I'm the great pleasure to do. But before I do that, I would like your permission to congratulate the author of this book, Anita Devi Pillai. In Malayalam, there's an expression, Bhagirata Prayatnam, that is equivalent to Herculean task in English. She has done a marvelous job, she and her partner. She's here, okay. Congratulations on what you have achieved. And then I want to congratulate and thank Keshav Pani. He has been doing a marvelous job since he retired from foreign service. He has been getting worthwhile writers to pick on people who have contributed to Singapore and write their stories. There was one recently, Balasubramaniam, the first Postmaster General of Singapore. He got one of the writers to write, and that was launched by our DPM, Tharman Shanmugaratnam. I think, Pani, you are doing a great job. Please keep it up, and don't forget to write about Tommy as well. Tommy really does not need an introduction to this crowd. I think the wisest thing that Pani and Anita has done is to get Tommy to be the guest of honor. I don't think we could have got a better person. I have known Tommy for 59 years. We both joined the university in September 1957. When you calculate, then it is 60 years. But unfortunately or fortunately, I went to Kuala Lumpur to do my first year. Tommy was in the law faculty, which started straight away. So I missed him in the first year. But I didn't do too badly, because in Kuala Lumpur, I found a very shy young girl who has since been my life's companion. So we both of us didn't do too badly. Tommy, if I were to take one particular characteristic of Tommy, I would say that he's probably the fairest person in Singapore, irrespective of the consequences. Tommy will always stand up for the right thing. I'll give you one example. Tommy and I used to be members of a rather dubious society called University of Singapore Socialist Club. This has subsequently been banned. At our time, it was still around. And we used to have a publication called Faja that has its own history. I remember that we were very selective in choosing members. And there was a case of a young man who was very active in one of the religious movements. And he applied. Yeah, I'm coming to you, Michael. And there was some discussion whether he would be a good socialist and would be appropriate as a member for our society. And the majority, among which I belonged, we thought it's better not to take a chance because he could be a spy for the special branch. So we resisted his membership. But Tommy single-handedly fought on the principle that any matriculated student of the university has the right to be member of any club in the university. Finally, he won over the majority. In fact, 100%, we unanimously accepted, as Michael Fernandez just admitted, he was the culprit. And we were very proud to have him as a member because he, during the problem days when he went to jail, he was the one who served the longest in jail without signing any documents. So Tommy stands up for the right thing, and Tommy is always ready to help friends in whatever situation. And that's why I feel Pani has done extremely well to get Tommy to be here. Tommy, on behalf of the Malayali community, I must thank you. But maybe some things that you don't know about Malayalis, if I take 2 minutes, I would like to tell you. The Malayalis are probably a synthesis of Dravidian and Aryan cultures. We are the product of that. Our language, the script is Dravidian, the language itself is heavily Sanskritized. And we have very peculiar habits. We have, in most of Kerala, matriarchal system, so we give the women a lot of rights. And what it has done is that because the women have ownership to property, they learn to read and write. And when they learn to read and write, children learn to read and write. So we have 3 reasons why Kerala has got 100% literacy. One is the matriarchal system. Second is the advent of Christianity, because Christianity, they were able to convert the lower, castes and send them to school, which was not allowed in the other system. And third was the communist government, which made education universal, and everybody had to go to school. So these are 3 reasons why Kerala is the most literate state in India. Second is the fact that Kerala has a long history of contacts with the outside world. We were one of the main trading centers of India. And Phoenicians, Arabs used to come. One very illustrious person who came and set up a settlement was Admiral Cheng He, the famous Chinese admiral, who had the largest armada ever seen in the world at that time, that came along Bay of Bengal, from South China Sea, Bay of Bengal, round India, went up as far as Hormuz. When they came to the Malabar coast, the Samorin of Calicut gave him a piece of land and told him, you can have a settlement here. There is an article which I've seen. I don't quite believe it, but let me tell you what it is. Cheng He had a chronicler who chronicled every event that went. And he had summed up in his chronicle, this is according to Kerala sources and therefore highly suspect, the chronicler had said that this is a people whose civilization is comparable to ours. The biggest compliment the Chinese can pay to anybody. And I'm not sure whether they did pay them or some Kerala writer decided that should have been said. So we have had a long relationship with the outside world. That's why Malayalis, when they go out, they assimilate very easily with the people of that country. But Tommy, I don't want to waste your time. Let me welcome you. Thank you for being the chief guest for this. I think you have done us great honor. Thank you.
Ambassador Gopinath Pillai, that was one of the most engaging speeches. Thank you very much. Once again, a round of applause to him. Now, we would also like to call upon Ambassador Kesavapani, Mr. Jaykumar Unnithan, President, Singapore Malayalee Association, and the first author of the book, Dr. Anita Devi Pillai.
It is a great honor to have Professor Tommy Koh as our guest of honor. Sir, thank you so much for gracing this wonderful occasion, and may we have you on stage, please.
Let's put our hands together for guest of honor. Ambassador Gopinath Pillai will now felicitate our guest of honor in our traditional Ponnada. Okay.
We have now come to the moment that we've all been waiting for. At this juncture, Dr. Anita will present the book to our guest of honor, Professor Tommy Koh.
Thank you once again, Professor Tommy Koh. May we now request you to address our guests this evening, please.
My Indian brothers, Gopinath Pillai and Kesavapani, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you namaste, and I also want to wish you Happy Lunar New Year. Today is the 15th day of the Lunar New Year, and it brings to a close the celebration of the new lunar year. It's a very big day in the life of the Chinese community. Most families will reunite once more around the dining table this evening. So when I agreed to accept this particular day for the launch, my PA Kim asked me, isn't this Chap Gourmet? And I said, yes. He said, are you giving Pani Chap Gourmet? I said, yes. And why? Because Gopinath Pillai, Pani and I belong to the biggest club in Singapore, the Club of Mutual Admirers. So you must discount a lot of the good things that Gopi said about me. As my wife is here, I will follow her advice to make only 3 points in my remarks. The first point. What is the significance of this book to Singapore? Why did I, a non-Indian, agree to launch this book? This book is important for Singapore because the story of the Malayalis is part of the larger story of Singapore. The story of Singapore should not just be told by the government or the bureaucrats. It is everybody's story. And when I was chairman of the Heritage Board, I promoted the view that the story of Singapore is a very big story within which we accommodate many other stories. So I'm very pleased that Malayalee community has written their story. It has enriched the larger story of Singapore. What is the second significance of the book? The second significance of the book is to acknowledge Singapore's debt to many talented Malayali men and women who have contributed so much to our country in these past 50 years. The current Chief Justice of Singapore, Sundaresh Menon, is a Malayali. The Minister for Trade and Industry, Ms. Ishwaran, is a Malayali. Members of Parliament, there are several. I think, is Ravi here? No, Ravi is not here. It's a Malayali. There are members of Parliament who are Malayali. There are very important senior officials in the government who are Malayalis. Ravi Menon, the Managing Director of the Monetary Authority of Singapore. I don't know whether Ravi is here, but he's extremely intelligent and capable. Ravi and I were members of the same delegation which spent nearly 3 years negotiating the free trade agreement with the United States. And the last issue to be resolved in that very difficult negotiation was one concerning our monetary policy. The Americans insisted that we should accept the American proposition that Singapore should commit itself never to interfere with the free exchange of money. And our response is that our policy is not to interfere with foreign exchange, but in the event of a financial crisis like the one in 97, we may have to take extraordinary measures. So we can't give you the assurance you want. So this was the last difficult issue to be resolved. And it was resolved by Ravi and his American counterpart in a very technical negotiation. They finally produced a compromise text which only the two of them understood. The rest of us couldn't quite understand the complexity of this text. But it just goes to show how clever Ravi is. So many Malayali men and women have contributed to Singapore, to not just in government, not just in the civil service, but in the world of culture and the arts. I like Kathakali, which is one of Kerala's contributions to Indian culture and to the world. Kathakali is now part of the world repertoire of dance. And I will never forget the important contribution that the Baskas made to Kathakali. I don't know whether Mrs. Baska is here, Santa, but I want to acknowledge her contribution and thank her. Malayalis have also made important contribution to literature, and I think Gopi saluted a Malayali writer who's here with us. The book is also significant to me personally because some of my oldest and closest friends are Malayalis. Gopi, of course, is one of them. I don't know whether Mr. Menon, TPB Menon, is in the audience, but Menon and I are very old friends that go back to our high school days, and we remain the closest of friends. I must also acknowledge the presence here of my good friend Michael Fernandez. Michael, can you just stand up? I must tell you two stories about Michael. After I graduated from the law school, I was a very young lawyer. I was approached by the Naval Base Workers Union to be their legal advisor, which I accepted. This was a very tumultuous period in Singapore history. The PAP had split, and those who disagree with the Lee Kuan Yew faction formed the Barisan Socialists. And the PAP and the Barisan were contesting for leadership of the trade union movement. The trade union affiliated to PAP was NTUC, and the trade union affiliated to Barisan was SATU. At the naval base, there was a battle going on between PAP and the Barisan to capture the leadership of the naval base workers' union. The post of secretary of the union had become vacant. And Michael, in his young and foolish days, wanted to take up this post. Although I was a legal advisor of the union, I warned Michael. I said, Michael, maybe you shouldn't accept this job because you will be caught in a crossfire between PAP and Barisan, and you may not survive. But he did not take my advice and accepted the post. And sure enough, he was detained for many years. But those of us, Gopi, myself, and others who knew him well, did not regard him as a subversive and stood by him in good time and bad time. I'll tell you another story about Michael. Many years later, he was president of the Kerala Association. This was the predecessor of the Malayalee Association. And one year, he asked me whether I could be the guest of honor at their annual dinner. And I thought, well, I'm just going to enjoy a good Indian dinner, and went along. What I found that evening, I don't know whether Gopi, you were there. I found that evening very disturbing because at the head table, there was a civil war between the Malayalis and the Tamils over our language policy. Because my Malayali friends were very unhappy with the fact that their children were being forced to learn Tamil, which is not their language. And the Malayalis contended that Malayalam is just as ancient and rich a language as Tamil and as deserving of recognition. So that was my exposure, Michael, to the sibling rivalry between the Indian Tamils, the Jaffna Tamils on the one side, and the Malayalis on the other side. I think the issue is still not resolved. I think the Malayalis continue to campaign that the language be recognized for O level, and I think Gopi, you're playing a hand in that. So I wish you good luck. So I want to conclude by saying that this is a special day. It is Tsap Gourmet, the concluding day of the Lunar New Year. And I'm very pleased to spend this day with you and to thank Anita Devi Pillai and Puva Arumugam for having produced a very impressive book on the history of the Malayalis in Singapore. Thank you all very much.
Mr. Jayakumar, President of Singapore Malayalee Association, will now present a token of appreciation to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Tomiko and Mr. Jayakumar. Next up, Ambassador Gopinath Pillai. Sir, may we have you on stage, please. And can we once again invite Dr. Anita to present the book to Ambassador Gopinath Pillai. Thank you, sir.
We take great pleasure in inviting Mr. Sunny Varghese, CEO of Olam, on stage to receive the newly launched book from the first author, Dr. Anita Devi Pillai. We are very, very grateful to Mr. Sunny Varghese for supporting this event. Thank you, sir.
And now we take great pleasure to call upon Mr. Vikram Nair, Member of Parliament, to the stage. Dr. Anita would present the book to Mr. Vikram Nair.
Thank you, sir.
We would now like to call upon Associate Professor Angela Poon from the National Institute of Education, NTU, to receive a copy of the book from Dr. Anita.
Thank you, Dr. Poon. We take great pleasure in inviting Mr. Vishwa Sadasivan, the trustee of Singapore Malayalee Association and past president of Singapore Malayalee Association, to receive the book from Dr. Anita.
Mr. Vishwa Sadasivan has a long connection with the Singapore Malayalee Association. His father was one of the pioneer members of the association. We request that Mr. Vishwa Sadasivan addresses today's audience, please. May we have you on stage again, sir.
Professor Tomiko, dear friends, thank you for this opportunity to share some of my own impressions of being a Malayali in Singapore. My father, the late Govindan Sudashivan, came to Singapore with barely a few rupees in his hands in 1938. This was the story that he told me, and as Ambassador Gopinath said, being a Malayali, we should take it with a pinch of salt. But we have no other source. Now, he came to Singapore, not knowing where Singapore was, because my father hardly had any formal education. There was no map, no atlas, and he just boarded a ship and came to this place that everybody else was going to, called Singapore. Can you imagine the sense of adventure that these people had? It's extremely humbling to have the courage to do that. He came to Singapore and he shared with us that when he landed at the harbor, somebody walked up to him and asked him, "Are you Sadashivan in Malayalam?" Again, think about how much it would have meant to my father coming to a faraway land and being greeted in his own familiar language. And that was only possible because there was a Singapore Malayalee Association then, which was formed in 1917. This is the beauty of being a part of a community. And my father used to regale us, his 6 children, I'm the youngest in a family of 6, with all these stories, with all these anecdotes. And one of the things that he used to tell us was, tell me, when I went to primary 1 and I came in first in school, he said, I'm giving you an education. He got me my simple accordion, which I still keep. He told me, Mone, I'm giving you an education even though it's very hard for me, because my father was working with the British forces and earning $250 a month. He never borrowed a penny because he was a man of pride. And he said, I'm giving you an education not for you, but so that you can be a voice for people who don't have the opportunity. He used to campaign for his good friend, the late M.P.D. Nair, who was not with the PAP, who was with the Progressive Workers' Party. So we used to have buntings and so on at home. That was my political education from the age of 4. But regardless of that, when I went to Raffles Institution, I remember in the old Bras Basar campus, my first day in school, my father took me there, he held my hand, and as we walked into the hallowed halls, he told me something that's etched in my mind. He said, I don't care very much for Mr. Lee Kuan Yew's politics, but you wouldn't be here in the top school of Singapore had it not been for him and his policies that allows for equal opportunities. These two conversations that my father had with me have had an enduring impression on me. And that's the reason why, at the age of 32, I stepped forward to become the president of the Singapore Kerala Association. Because it is important for us, regardless of age, to step forward and serve. It is the same reason that I decided to be a nominated member of parliament and make speeches that got me into trouble, as Professor Tommy Koh would know. So, history, understanding our history, is so important. I think we have lost the oral tradition somewhere along the way. You know, the oral tradition of sharing stories when we are children. And history gives us three things which forms rootedness. Firstly, it gives us knowledge of our past, of where we came from, and insights, without which we won't know where we came from, what our roots are. Secondly, if told well, it gives us a very deep sense of gratitude for having had the opportunity to be where we are to do the things that we are doing. Gratitude and humility, because of all the things that our forefathers have done. And thirdly, and very, very importantly, it must give us a sense of inspiration to serve it forward, a sense of duty. And I think that's the reason why, Anita, your book is one of the most significant contributions to not only, as Professor Tommy Koh said, is not only to the Malayali community, but to the larger Singapore fabric. A society that wants to hold on to our heritage and inspire our young to feel a sense of rootedness. And for that, on behalf of all of us, I thank you. So, this book, as Ambassador Pani aptly described in his essay, or in his interview, was a labor of love. You know, many of us dream of doing things. This young lady actually went on to do it for 3 to 4 years, putting it together with so much of careful attention to detail. It's very hard to write a book such as this. And therefore, we need to value it. We need to pass on the stories. We need to keep it alive. I'd like to end by saying this. When my father's generation and the generations before that came to Singapore, when the Singapore Malayalee Association was formed in 1917, by the way, this year is our 100th anniversary. They came, and they came as people of a community. And over time, because of leadership, because of vision, we became a community of people. There's a difference. It's not just in syntax. There is a difference. But unfortunately, along the way, we started becoming, again, just people of a community. And that's where we are today. We are facing significant challenges, especially because there's a huge new wave of Malayalis from India and other parts of the world. It is so important for us to take occasions like this to reflect on who we are as a people, as a community, and strive to work together, not just to be united, but ask ourselves, how are we going to extend the privilege accorded to us as a community of people? to the rest of society, and if possible, the rest of this embattled world. So I'd like to say once again a big thank you to Anita and your co-writer, Puva, for giving us this opportunity for a much-needed awakening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for those wonderful and absolutely inspiring stories. We have now come to the moment that we've all been waiting for. May we have the woman of the hour, Dr. Anita Pillai, on stage, please.
Let's put our hands together for Dr. Anita Devi Pillai, the first author of the book.
Ellarukkum namaskaram. Good afternoon to everyone. Allow me a few moments to express my gratitude to everyone who has made this event possible. Professor Tomiko for gracing this occasion as guest of honor, Ambassador Gopinath Pillai, Mrs. Gopinath Pillai, Mr. and Mrs. Vikram Nair, Mr. Sunny Varghese, Ambassador Jayachandran, Mr. Viswas Sadasivan, Ms. Paramita Tripadi, Associate Professor Angela Poon, for taking time off their busy schedule to grace this occasion. Ambassador Kesav Bani and Mrs. Kesav Bani, who took a special interest in this book and played a vital role in making today's event a reality. Our special guests, Dr. Krishna Kumar and Mrs. Ushna Krishna Kumar from India, for gracing this occasion. The hosts for today's event, Singapore Indian Association and Singapore Malayalee Association. The supporters for today's event, Mr. Sunny Varghese and the Hearts House, National Heritage Board for the research grant, National Institute of Education for supporting the research process, the interviewees who opened their hearts and doors to us, the research assistants, Suni, Suvita, Faustina, Aishwarya, Sri, Sunita, my co-writer, Dr. Puva Arumugam, the photographer for the book, Mr. Binod Terat, Professor Rajesh Rai from NUS, Associate Professor Ruani Tupaz, Dr. Teddy Sim, and Dr. Mary Ellis from NIE for their valuable feedback on the manuscript, Ambassador Gopinath Pillai and Ambassador Kesav Bani for their kind comments that were featured on the back of the book, Presidents of the Singapore Indian Association and Singapore Malayalee Association, Ambassador Kesav Bani and Mr. J. Kumar Unnitan, Professor Anthony Palakal from Loyola College, India, and an established novelist, Jayashree Misra, for the foreword and message. The publishing team from Marshall Cavendish, Glenn, Rachel, and Lynn, the volunteers who've been working on this launch, Sharmini, Ullas, Sham, Sitara, Praveen, Kanchana, Sangeeta, Geeta, Aradhana, Anup, Jacob, Ashik, Aditya, Simmi, Tejas, and all guests and well-wishers. Now, there are two questions that I've been repeatedly asked over the last few weeks. What made you embark on this project, and what were your challenges? Let me address the question on why first. The Malayalis are the second largest Indian community in Singapore, and members of the community have made important contributions in the evolution of modern Singapore. So this book is as much an account of the migration and evolution of the Singapore Malayalee community as well as an account of the Singapore history, as Professor Tomiko pointed out earlier. My research showed that there was very little documentation on these aspects. Hence, I hope that this book will go towards, in some way, filling the gap and helping the readers to appreciate the Singapore Malayalee community and how it has maintained some aspects of its cultural heritage, even as they integrate into the larger Singapore social fabric. Now the second question, what were the challenges in carrying out the research project? The biggest challenge in this project was the sheer amount of data and the different types of data that were collected to paint a composite picture of the community over the last 100 years. More than 130 interviews were conducted. Each interview typically lasted an hour or two. About 400 photographs were collected and dozens of detailed family trees were drawn up. Current photographs were taken by Binod. All of this took up a lot of time and meticulous checking. In addition to the interviews, I also spent a lot of time researching and documenting the lives of pioneers in the community from 1900s onwards. This is captured in the introductory chapter in the book. Whatever the challenges were, the project was truly gratifying. I got to know the members of my community in a much richer way and have been able to record the experiences for all to savor. Perhaps now, I should unveil a little surprise I have for you. The surprise comes in the form of one of our interviewees. In fact, the oldest amongst them all, and my research shows perhaps the eldest in the community. KSA uncle, എവിടെയാണ്? Uncle ഒന്ന് wave ചെയ്യോ എല്ലാവർക്കും? If you could just wave, uncle. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope the book will help us to appreciate our roots and equally our place in Singapore. It is therefore perhaps fitting for me to end the speech with these lines from T.S. Eliot, as we have done in the book. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Thank you, everyone, and let us greet KSC Pillai, please. Would you like to say a word? Would you like to say a
I have never spoken on a public platform, except. So, what is it actually?
Just a few words.
I'm shocked, as happy at this announcement. Sorry, Doctor. I'm very shocked as well as very happy also that my name was mentioned, because if I expected it, I would have been sitting somewhere here, you see, and waiting for the great turn. But as it is, I was there, and I will be there all the time, God willing, you see. Thank you very much for all that. For the hearing to this rubbish, only 2 minutes only, but it is rubbish, you see. So thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we approach the end of the book launch, we take great pleasure to once again invite Mr. Jaikumar Unnithan, President of Singapore Malayalee Association, to deliver the note of appreciation.
നമസ്കാരം. എല്ലാ വിശിഷ്ട അതിഥികൾക്കും വളരെയധികം നന്ദി പറയുന്നു. Just now, Professor Tomiko mentioned today, the last day of the Lunar New Year. Wish you all happy Lunar New Year. In Chinese, Gong Xi Fa Chai. Guest of honor, Professor Tomiko, Ambassador at Large, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Vikram Nair, MP for Sambhavan GRC, Deputy High Commissioner of India, Ms. Pranita Tripathi, Ambassador Keshavani, President of the Singapore India Association, Ambassador Gopinath Pillai, BBML, Advisor to the Singapore Malayalee Association, Ambassador R. Jayachandran, President of Hindu Endowment Board, Dr. Anita Devi Pillai, author of the book From Kerala to Singapore, Voices from the Singapore Malayalee Community, Sunny Wagis, she of the Olam, Dr. Chandru, she of Modern Montessori International. I had special guests from India, Dr. Krishna Kumar and Mrs. Krishna Kumar, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, and thank you once again for your presence at today's book launch. Before I deliver the note of appreciation, I would like to say that This occasion also marks a significant milestone for the Singapore Malayalee Association, as it marks 100-year anniversary this year. Just now Mr. Vishwasadashivam mentioned about this. And we are proud to have played a significant role in Singapore's success story, because Malayalis contributed so much to the Singapore economy and culture and all other things. On behalf of the Singapore India Association and the Singapore Malayalee Association, the co-host of this event, I am pleased to deliver the note of appreciation. Dr. Anita's work is certainly inspirational and is a useful reference book for the generations to come. She has put in much time and effort to produce this wonderful book. Not only she, her co-author also did a very good job. Just as Vishwa mentioned, this is a milestone for Singapore heritage and history. It is through writing and reading that we will continue to ensure that our diversity and unique heritage unite us as a nation. Let us once again put our hands together and show our appreciation to Dr. Anita Pillai. So today there is a special event to Apsaras. They are presenting a dance afterwards. Thank you for the lovely dance performance. And Mrs. Aditi Govinathan, I think just now she mentioned some songs, melodious songs here. Thank you, Aditi Govinathan also. Also, thanks to many who worked tirelessly to put this event together. Last but not least, a very special thanks to you, our wonderful guests, for taking time to grace this book launch. We are indeed very honored by your presence, and let me say some words in Malayalam. In this book launching Singapore Malayalee Association Singapore Indian Association Nanni Dagapadatunu. Nanni, Namaskaram. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Jayakumar, for delivering the note of appreciation. I'm sure you're all now very excited to get a copy of your book after hearing all these stories. We would like to just remind you that the books are being sold outside at the counter set up along the corridor. Please note that 25% of the proceeds will go to the Welfare Fund of Singapore Indian Association. The author will be more than happy to sign your copy of the book, and she will be at the counter.
Now, we have come to a very special and entertaining part of this evening. The heroines of Raja Ravi Varma will come alive in the Arts House this evening. The dance presentation will be followed by light refreshments in the gallery. We hope you've had a lovely evening, just as we did. Thank you for being such great audience.
Ellarkum njangalude nanniyum namaskaravum.
Have a great evening, everybody. Hey, Sitara, look who's coming.
That looks like Raja Ravi Varma himself.
Oh, really? Come, let's go follow him.
What an inspiring space. You know, I have been labeled, in my opinion, quite unfairly, as a painter of calendar art on one extreme, and on the other extreme, as a painter who portrays sari-clad women in their shapely and elegant best. I think it's quite unfair. See, my focus when I paint is to model the Hindu goddesses and epic heroines in the mold of South Indian women, whom I consider divine. Don't you, ladies and gentlemen? Well, I am Raja Ravi Varma, and I extend to you my warmest greetings. My paintings of the goddesses Saraswati and Lakshmi have come to be termed as calendar art. You know, a status never imagined when I first painted them. Since the early 1900s, and even today, the reproductions of these paintings continue to be hung in almost every Hindu household, with the goddesses showering blessings while keeping date and time. And this is not only in India, but all around the world. And this has vindicated me, because I had many critics in my lifetime who were unhappy with my fusion of Indian traditions with European academic art. To each his own. Radha. Radha is among my favorite heroines from the Hindu scriptures. You know, the Hindu scriptures have always inspired me. When I visualize these characters in the epics, I focus on identifying a moment, a dramatic moment, and using oil paints, I capture these moments in vivid colors. And the idea of Radha waiting on the banks of the river Yamuna for her lover, Sri Krishna, has always inspired me. So the yearning, the waiting, and the final union with him are my recurring themes in my paintings of the divine Radha. Damayanti's secret love, you know, it holds a special part in my heart. In it, there's prominence to the magical swan. See, this swan is a messenger who passes messages from Damayanti, a heroine in the Mahabharata, and her lover. And I hold animals close to my heart. When I was a young boy, 12 years old, I used to sketch animals and nature on the palace walls. I was fortunate. My uncle, Raja Varma, noticed these sketches, and he initiated me into the world of art, paintings, and drawings. I have been fortunate, I've been blessed in my lifetime to have been given opportunities to expand my skills. And I've had the patronage of very special people, good people, including the Maharaja of Travancore. And the award and the recognition I received at the Vienna Art Exhibition is a tribute to India and her art. My wish is that art and artists continue to enjoy the patronage and support of the public whom we all serve. One other heroine who inspires me is Shakuntala, the maiden in the meadow, frozen in time on an easel. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I would like to do now is to welcome you to my studios in the Kilimanur Palace in Trivandrum and Lakshmi Vilas Palace in Baroda. There, these epic heroines will come alive through poetry of music, movement, and dance, and share with all of you their life, filled with excitement, romance, and unfortunately, tragedy. So please,
Pura Venam, Pura Venam,